I cared for a feral cat colony for more than 16 years. And I took those cats when I knew that I was moving to Kentucky. I took those cats, trapped them with the help of animal control, and then socialized them to living in my house. I had a 5-bedroom house in New Jersey. And then after I socialized them, I brought them with me to Kentucky. It was quite a feat. It was very expensive. It was very expensive, very time consuming, very stressful, very tedious. And I didn't have any help.
Oh my God.
You know, all those organizations that people donate to, the large ones, I won't mention. They don't really help animals. They don't help rescue people. No, so you're kind of left to do it all on your own, and I did. I have photos of it, videos of it. When I moved here, yeah, it was amazing actually. So
you like build Noah's Ark. It feels like to get all those cats.
It was. I mean, in the cat colony back in New Jersey, I had written permission to care for them from the property owner. They had like a watershed area on the property where you couldn't really build. And animals just kind of congregated there, and I worked there for a brief time, was introduced to this colony, and I was caring for them for more than 16 years.
Wow. And how many are there?
Oh, well, back in New Jersey, there were quite a lot. Yeah, there were quite a lot. There was more than 35.
Oh my, and then how many did you end up bringing?
I brought 28 with me. 28.
Oh my God.
And then there were 3 that were stuck back in New Jersey. You know what happens when you're moving, the movers were not paying attention to what I told them to do. As a result, they went into a room that they should not have gone into. Cats escaped. They went frantic. Some of them went outside. So 3 of them were left back in New Jersey. I was able to trap 2 of them and move them back here after 9 months, which I paid a small fortune for. And then there's one still back there who defies being trapped because, you know, it's like he figures, okay, I was trapped once, I'm not going to let that happen again. So I have somebody caring for him.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And wow, how do they like Kentucky?
Well, is this part of your documentary, your HBO special?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess like to tell you a little bit about our show, we basically the show is called Neighbors, and basically every episode explores, it basically begins with a neighbor dispute and sort of tracks that neighbor dispute through the course of however long, we are able to document it, and then by kind of using a neighbor dispute as an entry point, we get to learn about, the people within them, and the kind of, you learn about, things that they do. And so, like, I guess this cat nonprofit you have would be a really interesting thing to, like, include in the show.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, I would like to include that in the show because it actually is quite pivotal based upon what's happened here since the day I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And just as a backdrop, when I moved here from New Jersey, I moved to a farm in remote rural Kentucky on the edge of the National Forest, Jackson County, and I didn't know anybody, 0. But it appears as all of my neighbors had an agenda, a plan. They all seemed to know something about me that was false. They knew that I had a cat rescue. I've had people tell me that my cats live better than most of the people around here, or some of the people around here. After I was here 3 days, 4 of my cats were stolen.
Oh my God.
One was run over by a car, one was poisoned with antifreeze.
Jesus.
Yes, but I moved here in May, and by July, 2 more were actually stolen as they slept. on May 2nd of this year, and this it becomes very tragic, and I can explain why I believe this is happening. You may or may not want to include that in your documentary, in your show, but this is happening across the United States for those who have eyes that see. Somebody early morning of May 2nd entered my nonprofit building. I had 2 mama cats in there, both nursing kittens. Now, normally I'm like a trap, neuter, return person. I will spay and neuter the males and the females, but here in rural Kentucky, the veterinarians are few and far between, and people keep dumping animals on my property. And they're not spayed. Yeah, they're not spayed or neutered.
Right.
So in order to do that, you need a veterinarian. What these local people did is they contacted the only local veterinarian, Dr. Rebecca Caleb Wilson, and told her not to take me as a client. I called her.
God.
Yes, I called her. I explained the situation, that people are dumping cats here. They're not spayed or neutered. I need to come in and get that done. What does it cost? They would place me on hold for extended periods of time, hang up on me. At first, I thought it was just, negligence on their part. But each time I called back, they kept hanging up on me. And I documented this 11 times. It's all recorded, by the way. It's all recorded. I've already filed complaints against them. Posted the videos online. But I finally got the doctor, and she has the audacity to say, I'm not going to take you as a client. I'm not going to take your rescue. You're not friends with my friends.
She said that?
I flat out, it's recorded.
That's insane.
You're not friends with my friends. I don't get you. I kid you not, I don't get you. How would she get me? I'm 66-year-old woman, and she's in her 30s. Maybe. Okay?
Right.
I've never met the woman before, so this is a slander campaign that's been going on in these small rural communities. And as you're interviewing people from rural communities, you will see that this is rampant.
Wow.
So yes, so she
And what
said,
do you think?
yes. And then she says, oh, well, I've heard about or seen your social media. I don't get you. And I'm thinking, this is a veterinarian. I just told her that people are dumping animals on my property. They need veterinary care. They need to be spayed and neutered. And she's refused the care. Both females got pregnant. Rather than leave them outside, what am I going to do? I mean, I like the cats. Brought them into the nonprofit building. They had gorgeous kittens, 4 each. Just a beautiful, beautiful little kittens. Perfectly healthy. Mom's nursing them. May 2nd, early morning, somebody goes into the nonprofit building and harms the eyes of all the kittens.
What?
I have all the before and after photos. And the 3rd kitten died yesterday, so I'm a little upset. The 3rd kitten died yesterday. I posted a video about it online. And yes, they've harmed the eyes, and I'm going to tell you what it is. You can choose to include this or not. Many rural towns are involved in witchcraft.
Oh my God.
They're very satanic, and these are rituals. I can prove it. I've got tons of videos online about the witchcraft left on my property. Glass triangles, rusted nails, rusted screws. They take branches off my trees and put X's around my property. But so on May 2nd, early in the morning, their high witch holiday is May 1st. It's called May Day, Beltane. In many pagan circles, it's, just a day of celebration. But when you're talking about the satanic Luciferian witches, that when they're warring against you, they do animal sacrifices and stuff like that.
Right.
And this is unfortunately a fact.
And so when I think we would just love to include this in the documentary because this is so wild and horrible. When you say that they harm the eyes, what do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know. I couldn't tell you what they've done. All I know is they go to sleep the next, and then the next morning I go in there, their eyes are closed, they're weepy. The second eyelid that's underneath the cat's eye, like the white part, is rolled up. They're hardly seeing. I have lots of terramycin, which is an eye ointment, so I use terramycin. I don't know exactly what they've done. I have heard from other people that what these Luciferians do, it's ritualistic. They usually do the left eye, and they do it to gain notoriety or hierarchy in their witch covens. So in order to get elevated in their witch coven, they have to perform either a ritual or an abuse. It's called satanic ritual abuse. And they usually do it, a lot of times they can do it to innocent animals out in the public. But they'll do it against a targeted person, like somebody that they are hating against, like me. And that's what they did. So 3 kittens have died. I have before and after photos. And the mama, the only thing I think of is I have a lot of these local people. They come onto my YouTube channel and they leave bizarre comments. Some of them I think know what's going on and they don't like it. So they leave me a lot of hints about what's happening. One of them saw my video about the cat's eyes, and she says, she has the audacity to say, well, I hope you didn't vaccinate the nursing mother. Yeah, so that's what she says. And now the nursing mother, her eyes are weeping, tearing. She was perfectly healthy, has a loose stool and all that stuff. And she's nursing these kittens. They're all getting sick. They were all perfectly healthy. And maybe somebody came in and jabbed them with something.
Oh my God. I mean, it's really scary, and I mean, when you say that you've seen kind of shapes with sticks, what do you mean by that?
Okay, what they do is that, to perform their rituals against a person and their property, is they put X's around. They have to mark their area. It's very ritualistic, and they do it mostly in a circular pattern, but they'll mark your entire property. Now, obviously, I can't walk my entire property. They mostly mark the areas that I walk most often. All along the county road, I'll find X's. Literally, it's intentional. They're deliberately spaced a certain equidistance apart, marking my property with branches, twigs, sticks, screws, triangle pieces of glass. I even asked ChatGPT, I said, ChatGPT, and I didn't tell ChatGPT all of that was happening. I said, what? I've been experiencing people dropping triangles and X's all over my property, and ChatGPT says that these are intimidation tactics.
Oh my God.
Yes, they're intimidation tactics. There are witches, covens, and they mention the Freemasons. ChatGPT mentions all these things, and I'm playing dumb, I don't know what's going on. ChatGPT, just tell me what's happening on my property. So ChatGPT just prints out all the stuff about the rituals. I read it all on my channel. The tactics utilized in witchcraft against a person and how they use animals. They are intimidation tactics and stuff. I mean, I could send it to you, if you were interested.
Yeah, I would love to see. That and all of your materials and stuff that any photos and stuff that you haven't posted yet. I'd love to see, because that's really scary, and we haven't come across a story like this. So I mean, it's really wild. I'm sorry you're going through that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just sounds horrible.
Well, I contacted PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, about 3 years ago. And at first they were very interested. I sent them photos. I spoke with them on the phone. They were very quick to call me back. And then They said, well, we'll decide whether or not we're going to investigate it further, and I never heard from them again. I know other people that have contacted them, and PETA has been given sort of like a gag order on these things. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why you may or may not see a lot of it online. Although more and more people are speaking out, and I'll tell you an interview, you might want to check it out. There's this YouTube creator, Sean Atwood. He interviewed twice Bob Marley's daughter, Sahara Marley. And she talks all about this in the first interview because she was talking about P. Diddy. She says, we all know what's going on with him and stuff. She says, but what you don't know is that he was satanically, ritually abused.
Oh, wow.
As a child, as a young person. And that's why he turned out to be the way he is. And she goes into all the spirituality behind getting out of this club and whatever, but he chose to stay in it and continue to the abuse.
Oh my God.
So her interview, the first one, is compelling. And so it just validated a lot more. But there's also a video that I have on my channel it's about Freemasonry. It's actually 5 hours long.
Oh my God.
I had to binge on it over a couple of days. It is the X Factor winner, Atlantean, I forget his name, and he was a Freemason at one time, and he says, I'm risking my life in doing this video. He said, but it has to be said, and he provides all the evidence that you want to see about how Satanism has infiltrated the highest levels of our government, the country. It's an agenda. And in order to get to these high levels, you do have to perform these rituals. And they'll generally be against the most innocent people. You know, the God-fearing, innocent. I'm not a religious person, by the way, but I love animals.
Right.
The truth tellers, they will war against these people first and foremost. Yes.
So, do you, like, I guess there was a video I saw on your channel of a woman that was, like, trespassing.
Oh, yeah, that's my neighbor.
And do you think that she is involved in this?
I don't know that she's necessarily involved in the harming of my animals, but I know for a fact that she has harassed my workers on my property. I've got a video where she's harassing 18-year-old workers on my property to not clean my property, driving back and forth 5 times to harass them to not clean my property. Otherwise, they'll be part of her lawsuit. They harassed me after I got a legal land survey to prove that the property across the street was mine and not theirs.
Wow.
The list is literally endless. And that video that you saw appeared on Neighborhood Wars on A&E.
So is that, I actually didn't end up seeing it on Neighborhood Wars. I just saw it on your channel, but is that the video that was on Neighborhood Wars?
Yes.
Okay.
There were 2. There was her husband driving a John Deere tractor on May 20th, 2020, I believe, that tore down my newly installed gate. He threatened my worker with a loaded weapon. With his 15-year-old son was standing there also. He tore out my gate, picked it up in his John Deere tractor, and dumped it on my driveway. And then drove back to his house. The sheriff at the time, Sheriff Paul Hayes, confirmed that the tractor belonged to my neighbor and there was no arrest.
Oh my God.
I actually brought them to court, the kangaroo court here. You know, it's a rural area. They all know each other, paid under the table. The county lawyer did nothing. And even my signed witness statement, I had a signed witness statement, they threatened him in writing. After he appeared in court on my behalf. Yes.
And what they think that you're taking their property?
Well, that when I first moved here, my neighbor, the ones who appeared on the channel on Neighborhood Wars, told me that my property began all the way down the block. Now, let me just explain. Rural areas they're very different than suburbs. So I own property across the county road, and most of it's on where I live. So there's 64 acres. Like an acre and a half is across the street, and the rest of it is like where I live. And it goes back up into the woods, like not really livable space, but it's woods. So you think, you buy this property, you don't have to worry about neighbors, right?
Yeah.
It couldn't be further from the truth.
Wow.
I was living here 3 days, and my neighbor says, "Oh, let me take you for a walk and show you where your property begins and ends." So I'm like thinking, "Oh, he's such a good neighbor." He lied.
Oh my God.
He moved me past my driveway across the street, all the way down the county road. And that's why when I got the survey, he flipped out. He started harassing me, said my surveyor was lying, he didn't know what he was doing, etc., etc. They even stole. I put a check to my surveyor in my mailbox. They even opened my mail and stole the check and delivered. And yes, and then delivered the mail to my surveyor, who says the check was not in there.
And what's your relationship like with those people now? Like, when's the last time you've seen them or talked to them?
Well, I don't really see them. The only time I will see them is if they're driving by and I happen to be at my mailbox. Again, my mailbox is 400 feet from my front door.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a 2-minute walk to my mailbox. So I don't see my neighbors unless they drive by. I don't want to. I have no relationship with my neighbors. My neighbors, I openly call them predators. I have reported them to the sheriff. They were on Neighborhood Wars. I have them on video doing other things, like my neighbor Scarlett dropped poopy diapers in front of my mailbox.
Oh my God.
To harass me. In addition to the grenade that was exploded just a few days ago on my driveway.
Who do you think did that?
I couldn't tell you because it was so bright. The explosion was bright, but I can tell you who's done it in the past. I know because they seem to have, a couple of houses around here that they hang out at. So
wow.
A couple of times ago, because it's happened 4 times, that there's been some explosion or firearm on my property that didn't belong to me.
Uh-huh.
So there was one time where a couple of pickup trucks were parked at my neighbor's house next door, the ones who appeared on Neighborhood Wars. And then they almost get like the cue, like, okay, we're going to do it now. But it was usually during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I've caught all those on video also. My cameras catch this stuff. They catch the noise, the sound.
Right.
So there was one time it appeared as if it were firecrackers or very loud fireworks. This time, I've had multiple people view the video who are more adept at determining what it is, and they unanimously said it was a flashbang grenade.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw the video. It was insane. I thought the same thing.
Yes.
And so if you were to is this kind of like, do they still harass you over this kind of like property line?
Yes.
Issue?
Yes, yes. As I sent to you yesterday, a very long explanation of property mobbing, real estate mobbing. That's basically what it is. It's a form of targeting to harass, torment, abuse, depreciate the property value. They are hoping that I just pick up and leave, and then they'll take over the property.
Right.
They don't want me to sell it. As soon as I listed it for sale a year and a half ago, they went to my listing, and literally, this is basically what happened. They went through the listing of all of my upgrades, And it was like their bucket list. And they destroyed everything that I listed as an upgrade. They tore down security lights, motion sensor lights. They slashed my water catchments so they no longer catch water. They dug out the retaining wall behind my stream behind my house. They punctured a hole in the vinyl siding of my house.
My God.
They drilled holes into a chicken coop.
And when you say,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They burned trees, punctured holes in trees. Yeah.
When you say that, like, when you say they, like, is it those people on Neighbor Wars?
Oh, it's all of the neighbors.
Yeah.
And I also believe that some of the law enforcement partake in it, and they may also have, and this is what happens in these communities, it's the plausible deniability, and this has been proven across the country that sometimes if the person that they're targeting is very lucrative for them, that they'll hire people like in the community they're volunteers. They're called InfraGard.
Mm-hmm.
They actually work under the FBI, but nobody knows about them.
Wow.
And InfraGard mostly are retired law enforcement, retired military, maybe injured. Maybe they have been injured, and they can't work in that area anymore. But they know about how to be stealth and engage in warfare. And that's basically what it is. And I'm not the only person. I could, if you want, I have the names of 6 other women who were married to military or cops that when they got divorced, the same thing happened to them.
And is that what happened to you?
Exactly. No, I was not married to a cop or law enforcement. No, I don't think this has anything to do with my ex-husband. But divorce in and of itself is a trigger to place this apparatus, this secretive apparatus in place to war against women that own property. And in addition to those 6 women, I've got a list of other women that were not married to cops that this has happened to.
And no, I mean, I would love to talk to them eventually, because it is a really interesting kind of bigger problem.
It's a
that you're explaining.
And I have their testimonies on my channel that you can listen to.
And I guess, like, what's it called? I think that, you know, part of our show basically would be, because we always get both sides because it's a documentary. And so I guess, like, we would have to, in order to tell your story, talk to your neighbors.
Go right ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of our show, and it's kind of be like, you know, and it further validates, you know, what you're talking about to kind of get their perspective. And I guess who would be the people that we should try to reach out to first?
Well, I'm not going to mention their names right now, but I will tell you that if you talk to my neighbors, please record whatever it is that they're saying, because I'll use it as evidence against them.
Right, totally. Yeah, I mean, like, when you know, if we were to do this show, like, you can definitely have the footage after we're done to use, you know, however you want it.
And I could also provide the falsified sheriff's reports.
Yeah.
Because I record the sheriff when I call. When I call and place an incident like the flashbang grenade. And then when I received through FOIA requests the incident report, it was completely fabricated.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I mean, how I guess how could I figure out who your neighbors are, you know? Is like with the person that you are on Neighbor Wars, like
yes.
You know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And just for the record, that woman that you saw posting no trespassing signs on my property on Neighborhood Wars, just as a side, she ended up driving under the influence, and she landed in the county ditch and was sent to the county jail.
Oh, so she's in jail right
No,
now?
no, she's out, but
Uh-huh.
she was arrested.
Uh-huh.
So these are the kinds of individuals that we're talking about. And remember, in small communities like this,
Yeah.
they all protect each other, even if they don't like each other. And that happens sometimes. Like I definitely have one neighbor that doesn't like all these other people, but
Uh-huh.
they're not going to rat snitch on the other people
Right.
because they have to live here, and you know, and they're all related somehow. Like
Right.
they're all related to the sheriff somehow. They're all friends with the sheriff. So
Right.
and I could give you a video in another county. You may have even heard
Uh-huh.
about it, where one of these rural sheriffs had a beef with the local judge because the judge convicted or ruled against one of his deputies for having sex with the inmates. You know,
Oh my God.
yes. So the judge
That's
actually,
insane.
well, this happens here. So, and this is
Yeah.
in Lecter County, Kentucky. So what the sheriff did,
Mm-hmm.
he decided he's going to walk into the judge's chambers like after lunch, and the judge, you could see he's like leaning back smoking a cigarette or a cigar or something, and the sheriff gets up and takes him out, and it's all on
Right.
camera. He shot him. He's dead. The judge is dead now. And this
My
is
God, that's insane.
and that's the way it is here.
Yeah, it sounds like a crazy, crazy place to live. I mean, what made you choose Kentucky in that area to live?
Well, Kentucky is actually, it's quite pretty.
Yeah.
When you come from the suburbs, like in New Jersey, I was paying close to $10,000 of property taxes. I had
My
very
God,
little
yeah.
land. You have a half an acre of land. If you want 64 acres of land, you're going to have to pay millions of dollars in New
Yeah.
Jersey if you can find it. If you can find it, which is virtually impossible. So I wanted land. I wanted a farm. I wanted, unrestricted land. I wanted to run free and have clean air and have gardens. And these criminals, they tore down 3 of my greenhouses.
Oh my God.
Like I said, it was a bucket list. Everything that I created here and invested in, they destroyed. And when I
Right.
say they, it's not only my neighbors. There are unknown people, people I don't know, because I don't
Yeah.
know everybody's name even.
Right. Right. 100%. But you do, when you're talking about the witchcraft stuff, you do think that those people are your neighbors?
Yeah, at least one.
And you know, like, you have a good idea about which one of them you feel like is that,
Yeah,
in that group or in a
I
coven?
have an idea of who one of them is.
Wow.
I do. I won't
I
say her
mean,
name.
you don't want to say their name?
No, I'm not going to say her name. But I'll
Okay.
tell you that they're all tied to the Freemason lodges, and there are 3 of them here.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Yeah,
very.
I mean,
There are
uh-huh,
Freemason lodges like in every city, every state across the country. They
uh-huh,
call themselves the Brotherhood and all that stuff, but they have these very secret things. At the very top of their pyramid, the 33-degree Masons, in order to get there, and you'll hear this on the video if I send it to you, the 5-hour video, they have to, you know, unalive people and animals in their rituals. And that's where all
right.
the, and all the children that go missing each year in the United States,
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh man. It's
It's
such a
so
dark
dark.
world that we live in. Yeah,
It's
I mean, it's
it's
just so horrible.
it's so horrible, and I didn't know any of this stuff. I'm still learning, but once you
Yeah.
learn it and once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes sense because it's like it's you start seeing patterns everywhere too. I'm sure,
The patterns, and yeah, I am definitely a pattern person. You know, I was a professional astrologer, and that's what we do. We look for patterns in the birth chart and in the sky and
Right.
transits and stuff like that. So,
I mean, I really find it just so, I mean, it's really dark, but it's also, you know, fascinating. I think it is like this kind of like witchcraft element of your story I find to be really important. And I really would love to make it part of the show. I think that we would have to eventually, I guess, if you were comfortable, talk to these people or whoever you believe
yes.
is, you know, one of them. And I guess, you know, the only way that I could do that is if you give me their names eventually, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, how would you feel about, you know, that if I were to at some point reach out to those people?
Yeah, that would be fine as long as it's recorded. Yeah. As long as it's recorded,
Yeah.
because honestly, the slander campaign here against me is off the charts. So I would love to hear what they tell you about me, so that I could sue their asses. Yeah.
So I mean, would you give me one of their names or some of their names so I could see if I could?
Oh yeah, you can go interview John and Mary Perkey.
John and Mary Perkey?
Yes, Purkey. Those are the ones that appear on Neighborhood Wars on A&E.
John and Mary
Purkey. They're my immediate next door neighbors. They're the ones that appear on Neighborhood Wars, you know, tearing down my... You can ask him flat out, why did you tear down her gate?
Right.
And you could ask her, why did you threaten her workers on the county road to not clean her property?
Yeah, no, I will ask. I will ask. I mean, I really want to deeply investigate this. So it's John and Mary... Is John John or Jon?
It's John.
Gotcha. And okay, great. Well, and the other question I have is, what is the episode? Do you know the episode or how it could watch?
Yeah, it's Neighborhood Wars A&E, April 11, 2023, and it's so weird because when they have their episodes, they give snippets of not just mine. I think I'm like the third one on that date. And they give it these weird names, which is why I can't remember what it is. Like, it didn't say anything about a gate or whatever. They give it like a weird title, and I honestly don't remember it. I mean, I would probably have to go search my emails and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, so that's the air date, April 11th, 2023?
Yes. And I think they had like 5 little snippets of other neighbors. So I think I was like the second or third one on that series. I don't have TV, so it's not something that I could just go look up. I don't watch TV, so actually it had aired and I hadn't even viewed it for weeks because I don't have TV.
So do you have a copy of it somewhere?
I don't. I used to have a copy because a friend like gave me a link. But I have the actual videos that they use because I recorded it. I had to give them the recordings, you know, of him tearing down my gate, of her posting no trespassing signs on my property, threatening the workers. Those are my original videos. When Neighborhood Wars reach out to people, they use your original videos. And then what they do is they take little snippets of it. So actually, and some of what they posted was not even true. Like the sequence of events was not accurate. Like my land surveyor, like they weaved it together in a way that like, oh, I finally got a land survey. No, I got the land surveyor like years before. So the way they weaved it was a little inaccurate.
Right.
You know, the timeline, I should say, was inaccurate.
Right. Yeah, totally. They make it. I get it. I mean, you know, it's just part of sometimes these TV shows.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that like our show is really, you know, their show, Neighborhood Wars or whatever it is like a clip show, like what you're saying. But our show is kind of a more in-depth investigation. Like you would have like your own episode basically going deep on all these things, which I think would be really interesting, because it seems like there's just so much to your story that I'd want to explore.
Well, there's a lot to my story, and again, it's not mine is just not an isolated incident. But what appears to be happening here is like literally off the charts. They're trying everything inhumanly possible to push me off my property.
Right.
Because that's the goal. You know, they want to have me arrested, incarcerated, whatever it is, to push me off the property so that they can take it over, steal it. And again, this is happening across the country to mostly to women, but it has happened to men.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, it seems like a nightmare, and I'm so sorry you're going through this, and hopefully we can, like, we can work together and get your story out there, because I think it's really, I think it is an important story to tell.
So, do you have other stories that, other people that you've interviewed, either in other topics?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's none that you could see right now because we're editing them. And this is the first season of our show, but, for example, our stories range from so many different types of situations. We have one of, there's like a suburb in Indiana where there's this guy who, it's like a nice suburb, and he basically was building like a full farm on his front yard, and the neighborhood really didn't like it, and we basically like documented the whole process of that, and eventually he got his farm taken away, which was really sad. But so there's that, and then we did one in Montana where a man ended up putting up a gate on a road that was basically a public road that he believed was a private road, and it stirred a lot of controversy in the community, and it caused a lot of conflict there. And then it's another one that we did. Yeah, we have one in Florida where this this guy is basically being stalked by his neighbor.
Yes.
Which is really intense.
Yes.
And we have another one of these two women who are basically they're basically arguing over a really, really, really small strip of grass between their properties that they both believe is theirs. And yeah, what else did we do? Well, it's funny. We have one that we did that is this really amazing woman in Philadelphia who she feeds the stray cats of the neighborhood, and her neighbor really doesn't like the cats, and so we did one that was it was about that. But yeah, those are kind of examples of some of the stuff that we've been finding and following.
Well, with regard to the neighbor where they're arguing over that small piece of grass, a survey is the easiest thing to do. Now, the one thing I know as being a homeowner in suburbs and rural is if you're putting up a fence, generally towns that have these ordinances, like in New Jersey, when I installed my fence, I had to install it within a certain distance from the property line. And then what happens is over years, other neighbors will erect their fences and use part of your fence, not touching it.
Right.
But then,
a fence up against a fence.
Yes, and that becomes and then because of that, the distance that you left, according to the township ordinances, then becomes the other neighbor's land over after like 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, whatever it was.
Like adverse possession.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 erecting fences.
Yeah. Do you feel? Have you done that?
No.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't have any. No, you can't put fences around here. There's just too much land. No, in fact, my gate is exactly where it should be. According to if there were a legal easement on the county road, which I found out there is none.
Right.
They claim that it's an easement, but it's not written anywhere.
Right.
So, and that's what happens in these counties. Like, they'll just make stuff up, and then it's not written anywhere as anything legal.
Right.
And then, but they make you abide by something like an easement, but it's not recorded. Like, literally, I have no easement recorded as far back as 30 years on my title.
Wow.
So the county can say anything they want. Oh yeah, we've got an easement, but it's not recorded anywhere.
Right. Right. Wow. And how far do the Perkies live from you?
Oh, so like literally from where I'm sitting right now in my house, I can't see them. Even if I go to my mailbox, I can't see them.
Wow.
I can see like the top portion of their house.
Right.
But I can't see this is rural. I mean, you
Right.
don't see your neighbors. I can only see my neighbor diagonally across because her house is elevated,
Right.
like on a hill. But
And what do you think about her? Who's that?
I'm not going to discuss that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all in on it. You know, they're all in it.
Yeah.
But I will say that she's the nicer of all of the neighbors, and she can't stand the other neighbors' guts. So,
Wow.
yeah, she doesn't like them.
Wow.
But
well, that's good. I mean,
yes,
that's nice.
well, it's very easy to not like those other neighbors. Like,
Yeah.
it's very easy to not like them.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. From what you're describing, I mean, they seem like just nightmares.
They're a nightmare. Yeah, they're a nightmare. But these are what happens in rural areas. People become very envious and jealous.
Right.
And obviously, I'm not from here. I moved here from New Jersey.
Right.
I bought a property that a lot of people wanted, that they either didn't buy, they couldn't afford it. But the way I look at it is, if they all wanted it so badly, they could have all pitched in. They could have gotten a loan. They could have bought the property back then. And they chose not to. So somebody was going to buy it, and it was me. But because I'm a single woman, I become the easy target for them to harass and humiliate and torment. And I've even told flat out by the old sheriff. He says, you need to get a dog and a husband. And I'm thinking, okay, well, great advice from a sheriff, right? Get a dog and a husband.
Yeah. What is your kind of like biggest fear in all of this? With your neighbors, like what's the worst case scenario?
I'm not a fearful person. I'm just very proactive. So that's why I will expose it by whomever will interview me. I will expose it. I want to get media attention.
Right.
Because these people need to be humiliated and outed. And then that goes for the sheriff's department.
Right.
Because it happens all across the country where these people are getting outed. And finally, justice is done. Like, the Institute for Justice has outed so many, even the sheriff's department in Pasco County, for doing to the local people what these people are doing to me.
What are where's Pasco County?
In Florida.
Oh, yeah. Wait, what? It's funny, we were just filming a neighbor thing there, but it was about these nudists, actually. It's funny. You're telling a story about nudists in Pasco County. But what are you talking about with Pasco County?
Okay, so what happens is the Pasco County Sheriff's Department they were placing people, innocent people, even teenagers, on watch lists, government watch lists. And once you're on a government watch list, it's disseminated to these community watch groups. What are they called? Neighborhood citizens on patrol. These local people that think that they're cops. And they go around photographing your property, reporting you for things that you didn't do, harassing you, tormenting you, pulling you over for fake traffic violations. So what happened in Pasco County was this was happening dozens of times to select community members.
Wow.
They reached out to the Institute for Justice. It took the Institute for Justice, I think, 2 or 3 years. And the sheriff's department admitted to placing these people on government watch lists for profit.
Oh my God. And is he seeking jail time for that?
I don't know. I think they just wanted it to stop.
Yeah.
I think they
Right.
just wanted, I think, they're doing it to teenagers.
I mean, that's insane. That is so horrible. I had no idea that's happening.
This is
Well,
happening
I'm glad
across
that
the
it's
country.
hopefully getting put to a stop.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't know. Well, and then
Right.
this happened to, this was an eBay stalker case where 2 retired cops go to work for the eBay security department. They decide, because there was an eBay seller, and I'm an eBay seller too, an eBay seller that was talking negatively about some eBay policies, that they were going to take it upon themselves, along with eBay employees, to harass this couple in Massachusetts. So what these criminals I call them, the cops, the criminals on patrol, what they were doing was they were organizing, these 2 security officers, organizing a harassment campaign against this middle-aged couple in Massachusetts by sending them dead animals in the mail.
Oh my God.
A slander campaign, harassment, so that people wouldn't buy their products, etc. It goes on and on and on and on. But
what happened to them?
Oh,
what happened to the cops?
Well, they're in prison.
Wow.
They ended up.
So they got justice served. Wow,
They got
that's
justice
good.
served. But the reason is, and we just had this conversation yesterday, some people and I, is that the only reason this happened was because the couple got media news coverage.
Right.
It was on the local
Right.
news, so they had to do something about it. The FBI, who does nothing for anybody, actually had one of their stellar agents testify on behalf of the couple.
Wow. I mean, it's media. Media does a lot.
The media does a lot, and that's why I want what's happening here exposed. The sheriff shot a judge. That should be all over the country. A sheriff shooting a judge, and then they want to make him innocent, even though it's recorded on video.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy.
Yeah, really, really, really crazy. Well, I mean, look, Lorraine, I would love to, work with you on telling this story and getting this out there. And I guess just to, for the next steps of all this, I'm going to try to reach out to the turkeys and talk with them. And if they're interested in doing this show, then basically from there, my casting director, because I'm one of the directors on the show and I'm a producer, but we have a casting director.
Yes.
She is going to eventually reach out to you and set up a time to do a Zoom meeting where basically, you tell her a lot of what you told me, and if you want, I can be on that call as well and basically, just so you have a familiar face there. But yeah, that's kind of would be the next steps if you're open to all that.
Yeah, I would be open to that.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for getting on the phone with me and telling me your story, and I'm sorry again that this is happening, and hope that we can expose the evils of these people. And the witchcraft stuff is just absolutely insane and horrible.
If I showed you, if you're an animal lover and I showed you photos, the before and after photos of these kittens, you would be heartbroken. I still am. I went in to feed my cats this morning and the kittens is not there. And not only is it heartbreaking for me, but imagine the mama.
Yeah. That is so sad. Yeah.
Last night, I brought the kitten, the dead kitten in to her because I want her to say goodbye to the kitten. It was just so heartbreaking. She's grooming the kitten. like licking the cat,
Aw.
the dead kitten's face and head and arm.
Yeah.
And then you can tell that she knows that, the kitten's gone, and then she stops. And then
Aw.
the other
So,
kittens, it's just so sad.
well, it's nice that you gave the mama the moment to mourn her dead kitten, you know?
Well, you have to do that, and the other cats too.
Yeah.
That's what you do. I've been rescuing cats for decades, so that's what you
Wow.
do. Yeah.
All right, Lorraine. Well, let's keep in touch. Let's keep in touch, and I'll keep you updated on my end on what I find, and hopefully we can work together on this.
Well, that would be great. And yes, please feel free to interview the neighbors, any of my neighbors.
Cool. Yeah. No,
Definitely,
definitely. That will be the next step.
as long as it's recorded, because that is evidence for me.
Yeah.
For the slander
Definitely.
campaign.
Yeah, I'll record them. Okay, Lorraine. Let's talk soon. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, and it was good chatting with you.
You too. Talk soon,
Okay,
Lorraine.
okay, bye.
Bye bye.
This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, May 27, 2025. If this comes to fruition, I am more than happy for all of my neighbors to be interviewed, as long as the right questions are being asked of them. I would love to have it recorded as to why my neighbor thought it was okay to tear down my gate. I'd like that on record. I would like it on record as to why my other neighbor thought it was okay to threaten teenagers on the county road, or call the fire department as I'm burning leaves. I'd like to know. I'd like to understand why. And more importantly, I'd like for him to interview the sheriff and ask the sheriff why he falsifies a report of a flash bang grenade being thrown on my driveway. So I know the way these, documentaries or interviews work. They have something that they need to show to their audiences. Just like with Neighborhood Wars, on A&E, April 11, 2023, they depicted it in a way what wasn't, the timeline wasn't really completely accurate. That was a little disturbing, but what it is. They have to do it for shows and clicks and all that stuff. So I just want it to be accurately documented. And the real estate property mobbing is very important. The satanic ritual abuse, the abuse ritual of the animals and what they did to my cats here. I think that is most important, because this will tug at the hearts of any animal lover on the planet. I mean, people will look at my gate being torn down and say, oh yeah, it's just one of those neighbor disputes and whatever. But when you start talking about what these fuckers have done to my cats, innocent animals, and what that piece of crap veterinarian did and said, it takes it to a whole nother level. So anyway, I'm going to sign off for now. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. This is not for public hearing. This is just documented for myself.